Guys, back here for Foodie Fridays, and I've decided that this sort of little mini series is going to be about all the core techniques of Chinese cooking. In this video, I'm going to talk about deep frying. Now, deep frying to many people is just sort of one very specific temperature and type or technique of cooking. In Chinese cooking, it's almost a sort of a lesson in understanding heat. You can deep fry something on a really high heat, or 180 to 200 degrees C, all the way through just to crisp it up. But then let's say you take something much thicker, like a bit of chicken wing or chicken thighs, thick bits of meat on the bone. You might want to sear it first on a high heat and then bring it down to medium heat and just let it bubble away and cook through and allow the juices inside to steam up and cook the meat through around the bone. There's lots of different things to understand about it. There's also blanching using oil, which is essentially deep frying as well, but that tends to be on a high heat to get that immediate seal, and then taken out whilst it's still raw inside and then stir fried to finish into a sauce. So there's lots of different ways to use this sort of deep frying technique and method. You've all probably seen on What Wednesdays that something wooden bubbles up at different temperatures, slower or faster as it goes higher up. At the moment, I've got this on a really low heat, and it's just sort of gently bubbling away, but not really high enough to sear something. So at that sort of warmish to high temperature, if I put a bit of bread in there, what will happen is it will soak up the oil first before it then starts to seal around the edge. And the issue with that is that that's what then creates a really greasy bit of food. Whether it's bread, meat, fish, tofu, whatever it is that you're cooking and deep frying, you're going to get that soaking of oil into it first before it then starts to bubble up. So if I turn this bit of bread around, you'll see it is starting to crisp up and bubble away after sort of 3 or 4 minutes. But you can see how much oil that is soaked into, like a sponge. I mean, bread is like a sponge anyway. But meat, fish, tofu, anything else or veg that you deep fry in here will follow the same principle. If you start from a low to high, it will soak in like a sponge before it becomes crispy. Now, if I turn this heat up now to a high heat, that's going to start to crisp up, and I'm going to put another piece of bread in once it's high enough a heat, and then turn it down later, and then you can control how much oil is going to go into your piece of bread or whatever food you're cooking. So what I'm trying to teach you guys here is understanding heat is just as important, if not more important, when you're deep frying than you are doing any other type of cooking technique. Just to show you guys the heat. High heat, the oil's fizzing straight away. That's what I talk about a lot in the What Wednesdays when we're doing deep frying recipes. My bread will go in at this point, so it's about 180 degrees, sizzles straight away, and then once it's had its immediate sort of seal all the way around that bread, then if you were to want to cook this through, if it wasn't bread, if it was fish or meat, things like that, at this point, then I'll turn the heat down. And what that does is gives it an immediate seal. You can see it's sort of gone golden brown almost immediately, 30 seconds to a minute, and that's that. And then my 2 bits of bread, when you take them out, you can see that they've cooked in the same oil on different heats, changes of heats at different time, completely differently. I've got a golden brown finish on the outside of this bread. Inside that, it will be a little bit greasy, but it shouldn't be overly greasy, as you can see there. And then this other bread, it's quite hot. If I cut that in, it will pretty much be soaked through with oil. Understanding heat, changing your heats at the right time when deep frying will give you a completely different finish when you're using deep frying as a technique for any type of cooking.